afternoon, members. We're going to start with our meeting. My name is Philip Christians. I am chairperson of the Standing Committee of Public Accounts. Next to Mr. Dustin Davids. I'm going to give the members opportunity to introduce themselves and then over to the AG and the audit committee. Over to you, members.
Good afternoon, Chair, members and members of the Audit Committee and the AG's office. I'm Leon van Wyk, a member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Benedicta van Minnen. I'm a permanent member of SCOPA as well.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good morning to the officials. My name is Pet Legar.
Afternoon, I'm French Mbombo. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and colleagues. I'm Basil Peters.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, Audit Committee Chairs. My name is Lizo Nzamela. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members, members of the Audit Committee. My name is Thamina Nakadin, and I'm a Senior Manager in the Western Cape.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vidad Solomons. I'm also a Senior Manager for the Western Cape.
Good afternoon, members of the House. My name is Dumisane Krekwane. I was the Audit Manager responsible for Cape Nature. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members and colleagues. I'm Sepo Moslomi, Auditor General Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and honourable members. My name is Andrew Davids, and I'm the Audit Committee Chairperson for the department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honourable members and colleagues. My name is Rihanna Ghani. I'm the incoming chairperson of Cape Nature's Audit Committee. I've taken over from Paul Slack from July this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just need to record for the record. This is a closed meeting. So it's not open for anybody else but us. So it's a closed meeting. I'm going to give the for the department. I think when we're going to do this, when the department comes in, we'll do Cape Nature first. I see they did that this morning, but let's do the AG do the department first, and then we'll do audit committee, and then we'll do Cape Nature, and then the audit committee. We do it in that order, but after every presentation, there will be opportunity for questions. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chair, honorable members of the committee, I'm going to be presenting on the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. With your permission, Chair,
Is everybody here? Can we start? Thank you very much. We're going to start immediately. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Philip Christians. I'm the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Next to me is Mr. Dustin Davids. I'm going to ask the members to introduce themselves and then the Minister, HED and Cape Nature introductions. We do all the introductions because we keep record of who attends the meetings. I just heard from our procedural officer about 10 years ago, there was a court case and they wanted to know who's all in the meetings. So it's important that you do a roll call and not skip a roll call. So we're going to do the roll call now, starting with the members and then the members online. Thank you.
Leon van Wyk, member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Good afternoon, Pet Lekaf. Christoffel.
Basil Petrus.
Afternoon, Benedicta van Minnen.
Afternoon, I'm French Mbombo.
Over to you, Minister, and we go.
Thank you, Chairperson. Anton Bedell, responsible for environmental affairs and development planning, as well as Cape Nature. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gerard Gerber, Head of Department of Environmental Affairs, Development Planning.
Good afternoon, Ashley Naidu. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cape Nature.
Kiki Loubser, Chair, Cape Nature.
Good afternoon, Johannes Fritz, Director of Financial Management and CFO within Environmental Affairs and Development Planning.
Good afternoon, Asad Said, Acting Director, Strategic Support.
Good afternoon, Marlene Ross, Director for Biodiversity and Coastal Management and Acting Director, Environmental Sustainability.
Good afternoon, everybody. Gottlieb Arnse, Chief Director, Environmental Quality.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lance McBain Charles, Acting Director, Waste Management.
Good afternoon, Ahmed Basir, Director, Environmental Law Enforcement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ayub Mohammed, Chief Director, Environmental Governance, Policy Audit and Enforcement.
Good afternoon, Fezeka Mabusela, Chief Director, Development Planning.
Good afternoon, Hussein Isaac, Director, Climate Change.
Good afternoon, Natasha Davis-Wolmerans, Director, Pollution and Chemicals Management.
Good afternoon, Lisa Peterson, Acting Director, Planning and Policy Coordination.
Good afternoon, Cobus Munro, Director, Development Management.
Good afternoon, Alan Rhodes, Acting Director, Spatial Planning.
Good afternoon, Francois West, RC Program Manager.
Good afternoon, Tia Jordan, Director, Development Facilitation.
Good afternoon, Ron Mukanya, Director, Sustainability.
Good afternoon, Rihanna Ghani, Chair of the Audit Committee, Cape Nature.
Good afternoon, Natalie Hayward, Cape Nature, Conservation Operations Executive Director.
Good afternoon, Barry Barnes, General Manager, Cape Nature.
Good afternoon, Shiraz Ismail, Cape Nature, Executive Director, Ecotourism and Access.
Good afternoon, Ibrahim Hadi, Cape Nature, Risk and Performance.
Good afternoon, Cape Nature, Executive Director for Biodiversity Capabilities, Carl Burse.
Good afternoon, Mohammed Bayat from Cape Nature, CFO.
Good afternoon, Rubendra Naidu, Cape Nature Finance.
AJ?
Good afternoon, Lizon Zamela, Senior Manager, Auditor General for Environmental Affairs and Development Planning.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Dumisana Krekwane, responsible for Cape Nature, Audit Manager. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Tsepo Moslomi, Auditor General Office. Thank you.
Afternoon, colleagues. Widad Solomon, Senior Manager for the Auditor General's Office. Thanks.
Good afternoon, all. Thamina Nakarin, the Senior Manager responsible for Cape Nature. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Andrew Davids, Audit Committee Member for the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that everybody? I see Member Peter Johnson online. I see your hand, member.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Yes, you just beat me to it. Good afternoon, everyone. Peter Johnson, member of SCOPA.
Thank you very much for that. Members, we're gonna do it this way. We're gonna do Cape Nature first. I'm gonna give the minister opportunity for opening remarks and maybe the HOD, and then that's done. And then we're gonna ask the chairperson, CEO, and then we'll start with Cape Nature. Remember, members, the page number must be given. We work with governance and finance. That's what our job as SCOPA. Governance and finance. I need the page number for Cape Nature or the department to prepare an answer. And it's two questions per member, and I allow 3 members at a time, just to have good coordination. So, Minister, over to you. Thank you.
Well, Chairperson, there's not a lot from my side, but to say that we're very fortunate to have a very competent team, as you've picked up. What do you say if you clean? Then there must be a nice reward, and the nice reward will be something like, well done, see you next year. But Honourable Chair, to state that I'm very grateful, obviously, to get to a state where we are now. It's also to keep our clean audit status. I'm a firm believer that we work in a team. Yeah, the oversight, the Auditor General do oversight, and they do hold us to account, but they're also part of the team, because and so is the standing committee. Knowing that there's people keeping an eye over you, keep us all sharp, and we will keep on doing our best to keep it clean and to work towards a better province for all that lives in it. Thank you, Chair.
Good.
Good afternoon once again. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. In terms of unqualified audit opinion, no findings, no unauthorized, fruitless or wasteful expenditure, 99.5% expenditure achieved. And yes, a big thank you to, well, I should really, to the combined assurance system that we have in place, of which the Auditor General plays a key role in that. And as Minister said, in terms of keeping us accountable, the value add, in terms of continuous learning and improvement, in terms of our governance environment, our control environment. Thank you.
The chairperson of Cape Nature.
Nothing further to add, except that you are very pleased that we have a clean audit report, and long may this continue. Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Chair. So keeping it short, we're thankful for the opportunity to discuss it, and we look forward to engaging on the clean outcome for areas of improvement. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that. Members, we're going to do governance for Cape Nature. That's page 53 to 74 is the questions on governance. I see Member Lekker's one. Okay, Member Lekker, over to you. Page number, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon once again. Chairperson, I'm looking at the member orientation and induction on page 59. Just on the part of 8.1, where it reads that management will provide new non-executive members with an induction and orientation program in order to familiarize themselves. Now, I want to check, Chairperson, that, and as well as on page 61, just to make a reference, by the way, because I see there that it says the chairperson resigned as a board as of from 29 May 2024. And I want to understand, therefore, has the position been filled? And if so, in terms of the induction as such, as cited in page 59, has that been done? The second one, Chair, is on page 61, a block there that talks to risk and ICT conservation. Can I get clarity and understanding as to you said from 50 something to 74?
So the board, the composition of board is on 61. So I'm looking at your second question.
Oh, okay.
What is your second? What page is that? Your second question, because the board members on 61.
Chairperson, I was saying page 61, where it says risk and ICT conservation. Page 61, composition of the board, right at the bottom.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
Just we've got the chairperson here. Just under that name, it says your appointment is. What that was the question, is if that appointment is filled.
Yes.
So just underneath Professor Hendricks, you have Ms. Loubser, and appointment is stated there in that column there that he was appointed on the 14th of.
Chairperson, you're disrupting me. I'm not yet finished with my second question and you're jumping in.
No. I'm just saying, if you look at the second line, you'll see the appointment of the chairperson. That is all that I'm saying.
I am giving up.
Okay, can I get, do you understand the second question, CEO? Chairperson, I'm handing over to you, and then the CEO can then direct who's going to answer that question. Thank you.
So yes, I was appointed in June of last year when Professor Hendricks resigned.
Okay.
I had prior to that served on the board, so we felt that I was familiar with the modus operandi and such. There wasn't specific training for me to assume the role as chairperson, but I was familiar with the roles and responsibilities, having served on the board prior to that date. Does that answer your question, or do you want?
Just a quick follow-up, Chair.
Let's just deal with the second question you said, and then we'll do the follow-up after that. CEO?
Chair, thank you, honourable member. Yes, as Loubser said, she was an existing member of the board, and there were, I think, 3 members who continued. The previous chair resigned due to ill health, and there were some additional members who reached the end of their term. So we did have some replacements last year, and we did have 2 specific inductions for the members of the board in the course in a few months after they joined on that. And the second question is that Professor Olivier is a member of both the committees Risk and ICT and Conservation, but I do take it from honourable member that it would have been helpful with a semicolon after the ICT abbreviation, so that he's a member of both committees. Thank you.
Member Lecker, over to you. Follow-up.
Thank you, Chair. A quick one, Chair. If maybe I must ask the department to school me, particularly around the fact that there was no specific induction. Is that okay in terms of the prescript? Just because somebody was in that position, it's not necessary to do an induction, or are there any, could there be any unforeseen issues that may crop up as a result of maybe not being inducted fully on the project itself? Thank you.
You want to answer that question?
Yes, thank you. So the inductions, we remember we did have 2 days where the fiduciary roles and functions, where the board members were taken through that for the existing and the new members on that. So we did do that on two occasions. We also used the opportunity of the strategic planning session to induct the members in addition to their fiduciary duties to the content of Cape Nature. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions on governance? New questions? Right, we're going to move. Member Lecker?
No, just a quick one, Chair. On page 68, under fraud and corruption, does the department have any contingency measures in place in mitigating fraud and corruption? And has there been any cases to that nature? Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask our Chief Financial Officer just to talk to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member, for the question. To date, in this financial year and in my recollection of the past many financial years, there has been no instances of fraud or corruption for the entity. But in terms of control measures, we have very detailed control measures in place from all aspects. And a clean audit doesn't come out by just one day. It's what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. The same in terms of preventing fraud and or corruption. It's what your controls that you implement, the tone you set from the top, and what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that you continuously do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can we move on to the next section? PFMA compliance report.
My hand is up.
Yes, member, I didn't know you in the meeting. Member Nkontlo, you can ask a question.
I did log into the meeting and I am in the meeting, Chairperson. My two questions. One is on page 59 on the conflict of interest by board members. What I want to understand is that on this, in this particular year, financial year, were any declarations of conflict of interest made by any of the board members? If so, can they be shared with us? The second question, Chair, is on page 64 to 65 under risk management. I just want to understand with the risks, strategic risk placed by Cape Nature around perhaps it's just to get a better understanding of what Cape Nature means, but also to try and explain to us the balance, you know, of the very challenge of fiscal pressures, given the serious impact we've seen of climate change, be it through the results of fires and also of floods. I think how is that being managed, you know, in as far as the budgeting side of it, but on the other side, you know, just about the nature conservation element that Cape Nature is responsible for. Thank you so much.
I'm going to ask member, I see member Basil Peters also on the line, but CEO, did you get that question? Because for a few seconds, we couldn't hear, but you could get the question. You could,
Sorry, get
thank you. Member Peters?
I'm covered now, Chairperson. Thank you. And
Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chair. On the conflict of interest, we've had no declaration of the conflict of interest in the last financial year. On the risk management, if I got the question correctly, strategic risk is that there is an increase in floods and fires. On the finance side, it is giving us a challenge in how we plan our large infrastructure projects. We do get a infrastructure grant for large tourism infrastructure projects. And while we do plan, and we go to great lengths to plan in detail on our 10 or so projects that we have, and these can be in the millions, we do have to reevaluate the planning after the fire season and after the floods, which does impact on how we plan the civil works. So civil works on the reserves, and especially roads or buildings, can only occur after the floods, but before the fires. There used to be a distinction of 3 or 4 months during that period, but with climate change, that is getting eroded. So the actual work time on the reserves has been restricted, and that impacts our spend on our infrastructure on that. And we do have detailed explanations that we provide through Provincial Treasury when we do get asked the questions on our infrastructure spend rate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, CEO. Member, the court, is that a new one, the legacy hand? And it's off now. We're going to move on to PFMA compliance report. Member Van Wyk, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to page 88, just before the photo of the beautiful butterfly. Right at the bottom of that page, there is a relating to travel arrangements. I see an amount of 1,210 Rand per booking. Was some contract variation and expansion, Jade. It sounds a fairly high amount for an accommodation per accommodation booking or travel arrangement. So I was just querying that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I can just ask also my question. 85 is fruitless and wasteful expenditure. There's two incidents there, and then also page 86 of invoices paid after 30 days, 295. So that's my two. Member Lekker.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is on page 85 as well. Under E, where it says there was one incident of a DC or criminal steps, and the investigation was concluded and the disciplinary process finalized. Can we get information as to what did this entails? And also going to page 87, under the emergency procurement, roads and repairs at the Whoop Nature Reserve due to flood damage. Just to quickly get an understanding as to this was an emergency procurement. So was there a what you call a consideration of other companies, or this was just part of a process of identifying a company that can do the work? Was the process open for all? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lekker. Member Kondlo.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just page 86 on the late and non-payment of supplies? We are given there the invoices of 30 days that were paid. I'm just interested to know against how many invoices that would have been paid by Cape Nature on this specific financial year, because one sees what you mentioned that you would have paid, but I would want to know what would have been the total invoices that you had to deal with over this particular financial year. But also, in addition to what Member Lekker has raised, please give us an understanding what would have been the reason for you to have to undertake an emergency procurement for the road repairs of the Whoop. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, CEO.
Thank you. CFO, can I leave all of those with you? You may want to hand over to Mr. Ismail on the Whoop, but let's see how you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let's hope I've got all the questions down, but let's start with the travel arrangements, the 1,210 Rand per booking. So essentially that's related to a contract we have in place. So it's not the full 1,210 Rand. There's a suite. So for car hire, they charge you a different fee. For international travel, it's a different fee. But the composite of what they charge is 1,210. So it could be any value from 50 to 80 to 100 to 200 Rand per booking. Unfortunately, with regards to travel arrangements, we can't do our own. We don't have our own travel desk that nor are we allowed in terms of the PFMA to have our own credit card. So you can't do your own travel bookings within government. You've got to go via a travel agent. And these are the rates that the travel agents charge in a process. Then in terms of the fruitless and wasteful, there were two instances. The first instance actually arose in the previous financial year and was included in our previous financial year report. So that's why it was included at 50,400 Rand. So that related to an instance where there was a double booking and there was an error. So between the reserve manager and the call center agent, there was miscommunication. As a result, there was a double booking at the reserve. A client arrived and his accommodation was already used. He was very perturbed. It was peak season, so therefore there wasn't an opportunity to provide him some alternative accommodation. He would only have been satisfied in a specific private accommodation, which cost us 50,000 rand. So of that, we recovered 26,000 rand from what he had already paid for his accommodation, which left a balance of 23,000 rand to be recovered this year. The board then made a decision that because it was a miscommunication, a misunderstanding, there was no fraud or corruption. It was an innocent mistake that happened between two staff members. It was then written off. The second instance unfortunately resulted in where a staff member was found to be using a government vehicle for his own personal use. Therefore, that staff member, and it relates also to point E in terms of the disciplinary and criminal steps. So that particular staff member was therefore disciplined. He faced a disciplinary hearing. He was subsequently dismissed as a result of that. The value of the private use was then estimated to be 33,762. So that's the two instances of fruitless and wasteful. In terms of the invoices paid and the late invoices paid, so I think, Chair, you'll remember last year you raised this as well. So last year we had a total of 6,306 invoices, of which 991 were paid late. This year we've got a total of 6,137 invoices, of which only 295 were paid late. And in some instances it's not really late. It's where when we drill down, it's only actually 100 and somewhat invoices, because most were actually received late but the invoice date is dated, so 30 days from the actual invoice date. But they only sent it to us maybe 2-3 days left to pay. So that's in terms of we are making improvement with regards to that. We've improved our systems. We're looking at continuously improving our systems. There will always be challenges. There will be disputes with suppliers. We need to confirm, especially when it comes to the firefighting invoices that requires information from reserves. Especially if it's aerial firefighting, you need to check the captain's log. You need to verify that the hours that the service provider is charging was actually incurred for the fire, and that can take time, because normally if staff are on the firefighting line, they don't have time to check invoices. So that only can happen once the fires are closed and fire season is closed. So that's a late and non-payment of invoices. Then in terms of the emergency procurement, unfortunately, there were severe floods that everybody is aware of. And in the Dohab Nature Reserve, the access roads, like the CEO mentioned in the morning, were flooded. So these access roads serviced not just our reserve, but it serviced the two PPP partners as well. So in that instance, the emergency repairs had to be done, and the Dohab, Opstal and Natural Selection are not service providers per se. They are our PPP partners. So a decision was then taken that in order to ensure that they could stay open, or they could open as quickly as possible so that revenue could be generated, a decision was taken that it's in the best interest that they be provided with the funds and they can then do the road repairs themselves. And then we took it upon ourselves to find an adequate service provider that was on site to repair the section of road that serviced our nature reserve and our management facilities. And I think Mr. Ismail can then take on from there if I've missed anything.
Thanks, CFO. I think you've covered everything.
Members, is there any follow-ups on that? Can we move on? Member Nkontlo?
Can I follow up on the Diop Nature Reserve? Maybe the CFO must just explain to us, when you say there was a decision taken, what was informing this decision that you have to allow the PPP partner to then be the implementer at the time? What informed that particular position? And then my new question, Chair, is that on page 88, I see on the Asekai Bosch Nature Reserve that there are two extensions of the same supplier, BC Security Solutions, with different amounts. And the service is actually providing, security guards. So I'm not understanding, firstly, why the contracts must be split. And perhaps you can explain to me more to understand the 24-hour service security guarding and the armed security guards. What's the difference in terms of what is the purpose or the scope of work of the supplier. I'm not understanding why in the same financial year you had to do 2 different extensions on a service provider that seems to be providing almost a similar service. So perhaps you can explain to us better. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, CEO.
Thank you very much, Chair. So in terms of what informed the decision at the time is that the access and the location of these roads and getting a service provider on site. So the challenge with these roads is, like the CEO mentioned, it's gravel roads. So therefore, and it's not in an urban area, it's in a very rural, remote location. The ability to get service providers to get on site, a due diligence was done in terms of the costings. What would it cost us to do it versus the Triple-P partner? And at the time, it was more cost effective for the Triple-P partner because they had already engaged with their own service providers to arrange the tractors, to arrange what was necessary to repair those roads. So they already had contractors on site ready and waiting to go. So it was, and when we did the due diligence of what our service providers that we normally use would charge versus what the Triple-P partner would charge, it worked out to be more cost effective that the Triple-P partner would be able to do it at much better rate. So that was the decision at the time. Yeah, and I think Shiraz can add if I've missed anything, so that's fine. Then in terms of the Asakai Bosch security guards, I think Natalie Hayward as the Executive Director for Operations can respond to the nature of what's the needs at Asakai Bosch in terms of security.
Sure. Thank you, CFO. Good afternoon. So essentially, Asakai Bosch during the financial year experienced some shifts in relation to the civil unrest that does exist in that area, a bit of a heightened concern around security of staff and infrastructure. And as such, the tender needed to be revisited, or the specification needed to be revisited in order to address the rising risk of risk to staff and infrastructure. In addition, the risk has been elevated due to the fact that Asakai Bosch Nature Reserve is accessed by 2 bridges, one of which washed away in the floods of 2023. And that is a private bridge and therefore not accessible to the landowners. And as a result, the only access into that area and a community adjacent to the nature reserve, as well as landowners, private landowners, is a bridge that is managed by Cape Nature. And therefore, to secure or control or better manage access into the nature reserve, as well as the neighbouring landowners further down the stream, as well as the informal settlement, we needed to ramp up the security in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. That answers the questions. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next financial information, page 91 to 137. Members, over to you. Member van Wyk.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at note 23. There's a 16.5% increase I see on external audit, which I guess is always a little bit of a discussion with your external auditors on the extent of that increase that they put through. Then if we turn on to note 27 on page 130 is obviously the list of contingencies, and most of those seem to be claims on fires and fire damage and that type of risk that you have. So if you possibly could just comment on that aspect. Yeah, those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to give 2 of my questions. Page 100, fines. There's a reduction in fines. Is it compliance, or is it because of compliance or not? And then page 123 is there's a unspent, note 11, unspent conditional grants, and it says there is a heading, but I'm asking when and what. You say you'll spend the money, and the answers, the question is when and what. Members, any questions further? Okay, CEO.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair, for the questions and members for the questions. In terms of, yes, the AG audit fees, Unfortunately, I can't really answer for that too much. That is the cost of doing business. We have to have it audited. I think, and as the CEO always mentions, the AG plays and the auditors play a very valuable role in business improvement, in allowing us to see things we may not necessarily always see. And it provides assurance because the ticket to the game is a clean audit outcome, and getting that out, it costs money. So it's something I think we've managed our audit fees, although it may look like a significant increase, we've managed our audit fees over the years quite well. We have a good relationship with the AG, and it does. There will be times when there will be differences of understanding, differences of opinion. It can create sometimes additional audit costs, but I think we've got a good way. And I think this year it looks at 3255 because of the timing of when the AG does the audit. We'll probably see next year most likely that the fees are slightly lower because I think there was a saving this year, if I remember correctly, for the financial year. But in terms of the timing of when they actually come in and do the audit, because it's post the year end, the fees for the previous year carry forward into the new year. In terms of the contingencies, I think I'll hand over to Barry Barnes. But before I do that, the fines, I must just get that information just very quickly, just to refresh my memory. I think the decrease in fines is not so much as a result of compliance, but it's a result of, in the previous year, there were 2 significant fines received, if memory serves me correctly. And I think those were, Saudi nationals, if I'm not mistaken, and there was big fines for that. Whereas, yes, that is the reason for that. There was a R1 million fine in the previous year. I think 750 actually in the previous year, which we didn't have this year. So it's just a timing of when you get a big catch. So that's it. In terms of the unspent conditional grants on page 123, I'll just go to the detail of that. So that's approximately 39 million. So actually, it's 40 million. So essentially, what is in there and when will it be spent? We've got 16 million sitting in there, which is funds which we received from the National Department of Tourism for upgrades in Khokama. We received that some years ago, but unfortunately, the project was stalled due to the inability to get municipal approvals from the Knysna municipality, if I'm not mistaken. So that project was quite in limbo, but I think that's hurdle, I think, has finally been overcome, or is on the process of being overcome, and that funds should be spent within the next 2 financial years. Included in that is also a 10 million rand for the Shaw Pass biodiversity upgrade, which we cannot use the funds for. So it's a grant that we receive. We only allowed to use the interest from that. So that 10 million will still sit in there. So those are 2 big pots. And then there's another pot in there around 5 million rand, which is funds which we received for a develop partnership with the local community. So we are waiting for the trust to be formed and the trust to be finalized for the local community. Once that is done, the funds can then be transferred through to that local community. And that's the bulk of the conditional grants that sits in there. The rest of it is, and the other bigger one is where from the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment for the management of the marine protected areas. So that sits in there and that gets spent annually. That is there.
Just on the contingencies, I'm going to ask Barry Barnes, our General Manager, to talk to that. Thank you.
CEO, so there's about 17 of these contingencies matters in the annual report. We realized that since 2009, not much has been done in this. We are defendants in the matter. We're not master of suit, so we don't control proceedings. However, we have, in consultation with Dartfield Legal Services and the State Attorney, developed a litigation strategy to attend to these 17 matters. We've identified matters which we will defend, which we will apply for dismissal, and those matters which we will approach the plaintiffs or applicants for settlement. When we refer to settlement as well, it's not monetary, it's purely services in kind. And we do have a precedent within the entity where we've settled the matter in excess of 20 million with services in kind for a landowner where there was a fire and they had sued us. So yes, Chair, that is our strategy going forward in terms of those litigation matters.
I suggest services in kind mean that we help with clearing fire and making fire breaks and things like that. Thank you.
Member Kondler, over to you.
Chair, maybe back to the contingencies, as I see here, and I think I see the one with MTO, that actually 2 of MTO, and I think one is said to be from February 2009. In the litigation strategy that I think the colleague was just mentioning, does it mean that in this, if we look forward to the 2025-26 financial year, these cases would have been closed? That's the first question, because I'm interested for us to know, as the committee, as SCOPA in particular, if we could get maybe some type of a detail, just summary of understanding each case. Where is it? What is the litigation strategy, to close the matter? But also, Chair, is just for me also to understand that, do we have a sort of a mitigating strategy? Because if you consider that most of them relate to fire damages, into sort of the properties of, these other entities, be it MTO and other municipalities, as it related, to the other cases that are included in the list of 17. So I just need to get clarity around those two issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, CEO.
Okay, Chair, Mr. Barnes, you want to add to the MTO particular, and then maybe we can go in terms of fire preparedness to Ms. Burse, just to talk about our fire preparedness. Thanks.
Thank you, CEO. So just in response to the question, MTO is actually one of the matters where we are negotiating settlement. So we're hoping that that one can be finalized or resolved in the next 6 to 12 months. It's not been easy. It's been to and fro, but we're looking to find common ground in that matter. And then in terms of making or giving an undertaking in terms of the amount of cases that can be removed from the contingent liabilities, it's very difficult to make that type of prediction, but we are working towards it actively and in consultation with DOTP Legal Services and the State Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Nkondlo, for the question. So I think if I can add in terms of the mitigation of the risk in terms of wildfire, so we're talking about extensive areas, where wildfire happens, and there is an obligation on us as a land manager to adhere and be compliant with the National Veld and Forest Fire Act, well, the National Veld Fire Act, I think, going forward, that puts certain obligations on landowners in terms of maintenance of fire breaks and agreements with neighbouring landowners around the maintenance of those fire breaks. So in Cape Nature, we've implemented on the roughly 830,000 hectares that we manage various strategies in terms of doing pre-fire season readiness, checking that all the equipment is there, that the fire breaks are maintained, and that people are appropriately equipped to deal with that. And I think if I think about the operational colleagues, when a fire comes at scale, you may have made a 20-meter wide fire break, but if the wind is blowing like it does, it will go across that. But because the legislation says that if it's come off your property, then there's a liability, and that's sort of where these contingent liabilities end up, is around, indicating that all the measures were in place, but there was damage suffered, and then the process going forward. And I think up to that point, I think I've answered the question. If there's a follow-up, I'm happy to speak to it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that answer. Is there any other questions for Cape Nature? Don't see any hands. I'm going to ask the CEO and the chairperson just to conclude, and then you will be excused, and then we'll go over to the department.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to honourable members for the questions. You highlighted some issues. We certainly do want to reduce the contingency areas, and we're going to continue to work on the late payment side. We've had a 100% decrease, but it's still in the hundreds, Chair, and we will try and bring that lower in the next financial year as well. Thank you.
Nothing to add other than thank you for the questions and the positive and constructive engagement. It's always useful for the organisation. Thank you.
Thank you. You are excused. We'll just take 1 minute break. We're not going to leave. 1 minute break for them to leave, and then we'll start immediately with the department. Okay, we're going to start. We've done all the introductions, so we're going straight away to governance, part C for the department. Members, any questions on governance? I see no hands on governance. We're going to move over to part E, PFMA, compliance. Let's do 12 to 15, I think. Yes.
Chair.
Give you an opportunity. Is that only Member Peters? Member Peters, you can ask your question. We are
Yes,
on
Chair.
PFMA compliance
No,
report.
no, on governance, Chairperson, pages. Can you give the pages, please, Chair, because I don't want to go to the wrong page.
155 to 166, we've done governance. So do you have a question on governance, Member Peters?
I'm fine there, Chairperson.
Okay, Member Kodlo?
Chair, my questions are
yes,
on section
PFMA.
F.
Yes,
No.
question E. We're at part E. We're on part E
Are you
now. So
on part
we're
E
done
or
with
part
governance.
F?
We're on part E now. Do you have a question on part E? That is 212 to 215.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me, Chair? Hello?
We can hear you, member.
Okay. Chair, on page 219,
Okay, Chair, then
Member, so there's no question on part E because Member Kotler's in part F now. So there's no questions on part E. So we at part F. You can go ahead, Member Kotler, on part F. Member Kotler, we can't hear you. Member Peters, is that the new hand or is that the legacy hand? Member Kotler, we can't hear you. Members, is there any questions on part F? We're at part F now.
Yeah. Salt constant.
Member Kotler, we can't hear her, so I can't take her questions. Unfortunately, I can't take her questions. So you can put it in writing. We're gonna put it part of the resolutions at the end. If there's any members of the public there, I don't see any members of the public. HOD Minister, I think you can do your concluding remarks, and that will be the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I started off by saying, job well done. Thank you. See you next year. Seems like it worked out. Seems like it worked out. So, no, Chairperson, on a serious note, financial management, it's crucial to get it right. It's something that we brag about, but it's something that actually should just happen. And I think this department leads the way. Knowing that we always need to be alert, and I'm very grateful for the people who stepped in, to the HOD and the whole team, Albert Fritz and Anwar and the whole team, because this is a team effort. I'm very proud of what they've accomplished. and hopefully we will keep this high standard going forward. Thank you, and thank you to the committee, because knowing that you will take us apart if we don't, that also plays a role, and also to the Auditor General, the audit team, knowing that there's people that walk the path with you, keep us all sharp, and we're very grateful for that. Thank you very much.
Jadine?
Thank you very much. Thank you to the committee for the important role that you play, as Minister just highlighted. Thank you to the Minister, and thank you to the team. It takes a lot. And thank you very much to the Auditor General and the Audit Committee for the important role that you play in the combined assurance system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad Member from Minden is here. She's going to do the thank you. Member from Minden, over to you.
Thank you very much for asking me to thank everyone else. So really, thank you very much for being here to everyone, particularly on a Friday afternoon. I'm sure that there are other things we'd much rather be doing, particularly with Cape Nature. So we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate the work that goes into everything during the course of the year. It is something that is very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There is refreshments in the members' lounge. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Members, we must still do our resolutions.
I think it's these. Say it again. So my husband, I mean, I have been that skill of it, and that's that big mental need of vitamin D. Better have party. You I've never broken a bone in my house. Another book we have like LCM.
Members, the only thing I'm going to ask the procedure officers to read some of the documents or whatever we want, and then we're done. Thank you, Mr. Davids.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, through you. Members, Chair, there was only one that I've captured, was a request for documentation, total breakdown of note 27, which is the status of court cases regarding the contingent liabilities regarding fires.
Yeah.
That was requested.
That all?
That's all so far.
Members, that's all, nothing else. If you have any thing that you can send it to the procedural officer. The meeting adjourned. Enjoy your weekend.
Mm.